Two villages in northern Burkina Faso, 223 men, women, and children killed by soldiers and local self-defense militiamen. This back on February the 25th. Human Rights Watch making those accusations. No comment from the junta in Ouagadougou. For more, we turn to France 24's Wassim Nasr. This has the hallmarks of reprisal attacks against jihadist insurgents.
Yes, actually it does, since jihadis attacked a military facility next to those villages at the same moment, and they were followed by the army and by probably the VDP, meaning the militias you mentioned, and those army men and militiamen took revenge actually on civilians. And what's interesting that in both villages we are talking about 223 civilians killed, amongst them 56 children. And from the testimonies that Human Rights Watch got, we got people that faked being dead and stayed among corpses and then witnessed. We have youngsters who digged the graves, and we have an elderly man who said, we went to the police or to the gendarmerie, as they say in Burkina Faso, to complain. But how can we complain when our own army is killing us? The thing is about this that it is very well documented, but it is not a first. We're going to see a map where we see where we see casualties, civilians and militants and military in Burkina Faso for the month of February, and we're going to see that the most important massacres that were committed, it was back on the 19th of December next to Djibo, maybe we could see the map, and also on the 29th of February, where 150 men, women, and children were killed in Bibgou and Swalimu, and that unfortunately, we aren't seeing the map, but actually, it is not the first. It is happening on a regular basis. It's a policy that is being followed by the junta. So here's the map, and all the red dots you see are the people that have been killed in February, the number of fatalities.
Just the month of February.
Just the month of February. We are 807 persons killed, knowing that in January we were up to 350. So it doubled for the month of February. We don't know yet what are the figures for the month of March.
And this is a country, just to remind our viewers, where you've had two military coups because the population was fed up with the fact that they felt as though this problem of countering insurgencies hadn't been handled properly.
Yes, well, that was the argument. That was what justified, between brackets, the coups. But actually what has been conducted since the second coup of Captain Traoré was all full-blown military policies and full-blown human rights abuses, which actually did not prevent jihadis from ongoing and from keeping their attacks. We're going to see footage from Barslago, which is less than a week old, where jihadi militants attacked the VDP, and here it is, and an army convoy on motorbikes. And despite the presence of drones in the skies, despite the presence of military personnel in numbers, where the jihadis succeeded. We have another footage of the attack of Solé, where the military barracks of Solé were overtaken and overrun. This is in December, by jihadi militants. We know that Burkina Faso, as Mali and Niger, bought Turkish-made drones, Bayraktar, and they even bought new drones which have a wider range and more capabilities and bearing arms, which cover all Burkina Faso. But those drones are being used at the same time against the military, but also against the civilians in an indiscriminate way.
And so, Wassim, you've told us that there have been reprisal attacks like the ones in those two villages in Niger, in Mali. But why is it worse? You're saying it's worse in Burkina Faso.
Well, actually, it is worse because it is because it is portraying Al-Qaeda militants as the defendant of those populations, and it's increasing the number of recruitments among jihadi factions. We even had the head of Al-Qaeda in Burkina Faso, and we have the footage, calling the Turks actually to stop selling drones and to stop selling ammunition of those drones to the juntas in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. So today we have jihadi militants that are free to roam as they wish in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and the civilian population, at best, being accused of not hinting to their movements, or at worst, being complicit of those jihadi factions. But at the end of the day, civilian populations are left alone. And at the end of the day, it is jihadi factions that control the territory. If we talk about Burkina Faso lost control of more than 60% of its territory as we speak. For Mali, Al-Qaeda roams in Mali as it wishes. Last week, they kidnapped more than 100 people in buses in central Mali, and they decided yesterday to free some of them. And they decided to free who? Those people who are originally from villages that signs agreements with Al-Qaeda in central Mali. The last two big battles in Mali, it was between jihadi factions and rebels on the Mauritanian border, or between Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. You see, so they have a no-fly zone actually, in which they can roam as they wish, and whenever local governments and local militias try to act against them, sometimes they have some successes, but most of the time it's civilian populations who are paying the highest price on both sides.
Wassim Nasr, many thanks for that update.